Today, we're getting into one of the biggest challenges in, well, the modern world, actually creating great software. It powers literally everything we do. But behind the curtain, it's this constant, high stakes balancing act. We've all felt this, right? You're waiting for that new app or critical update, and it just gets delayed or it comes out full of bugs. And you might think, well, just hire better programmers or work harder. But the real reason this stuff happens is it's much, much more fundamental than that. The truth is, it's not usually a failure of talent. It's a failure to manage a really brutal, basically unchangeable set of constraints. And these rules, they govern every single project out there, from a tiny mobile game to a massive global banking system. See, at the very core of building anything, I don't care if it's software or a skyscraper, there is this deep, deep tension. It's a conflict between what we want, how fast we want it, and what we're actually willing to pay for it. And that conflict, it has a name, the Iron Triangle. Honestly, if you want to understand why software projects succeed or fail, this is the single most important idea you need to grasp. It's been around since the 1950s for a reason, because it's just universally true. So, what is it exactly? Well, the core idea is that the quality of any project is always being squeezed between three really powerful forces: the budget, the deadline, and the scope. You can just imagine them as the three corners of a triangle. Let's just break those down for a second. Time, that's your deadline. When does this thing have to be finished? Cost is your budget. How much money and how many people can you throw at it? And scope, that's what you're actually building. All the features, all the functions, everything. And believe me, these three are not friends. They are in a constant tug of war. And here is the one unbreakable rule of the triangle. You cannot change one corner without messing with the others. It's just not possible. So if a client suddenly demands more features, increasing the scope, then you absolutely have to increase the time or the cost or probably both. If you don't, well then, that invisible fourth constraint, quality, is what takes the hit. This whole idea is just brilliantly summed up in that classic saying, good, fast, cheap. Choose two, right? You want it fast and good? It's not going to be cheap. You want it cheap and good, you're going to be waiting a while. It won't be fast. And if you want it fast and cheap, well, let's just say you probably won't be happy with how good it is. That right there is the Iron Triangle in a nutshell. Okay, so if every single project is locked inside this triangle, how does anything ever get built right? Well, you don't break the rules, you just learn to navigate them. And you do that with a clear, structured plan. Let's take a look at how that works. A professional project always follows a roadmap. You start by analyzing all the requirements to lock down the scope. What exactly are we building here? Then you plan out the structure. It's only after all that planning that the coding even begins. And finally, you have rigorous testing to make sure the quality is there. Every step is a deliberate move to control the triangle's constraints from day one. All right, so defining the scope is one thing, but how in the world do you predict the other two corners, the time and the cost? This is hands down one of the hardest parts of the job. It's all about estimation. Generally speaking, you've got two ways to go about this. Top-down estimation is kind of like a quick ballpark guess. You look at the whole project and pull a number out. It's fast, but yeah, it's often wrong. The opposite is bottom-up. That's where you break the entire project down into the smallest possible tasks, estimate every single one, and then add them all up. It takes way longer, but you're a lot more likely to be accurate. But look, when we're talking about multi-million-dollar projects, a simple guess just isn't going to cut it. To bring some actual science into what feels like an art, the experts turn to these things called algorithmic cost models. Basically, complex systems designed to predict the future. Now, hey, don't worry about the crazy acronyms here. What's really important is what they do. Models like Kokomo 2 and SLIM, they don't just guess based on how big a project seems. They analyze dozens of factors. How experienced is the team? What programming language are they using? How absolutely critical is it that this software doesn't fail? They crunch all these variables to spit out a data-driven estimate for cost and time. It's all about turning a wild guess into a calculated prediction. So we've got the fundamental conflict of the triangle, we have the roadmap to get through it, and we have the models to predict the boundaries. Let's pull all of this together for the big takeaway. So here's the most crucial point. Success in software isn't some kind of magic. It is not about finding a perfect plan where everything is good and fast and cheap all at once. Success is the art of consciously, deliberately, and openly managing the trade-offs that the Iron Triangle forces on every single project. And this just illustrates the whole picture perfectly. The Iron Triangle, that gives you the fundamental laws of physics for your project. These are the rules you simply cannot break. A disciplined process gives you the map for the journey. And those really sophisticated estimation models, well, they're your compass, helping you figure out the terrain up ahead. But here's a final thought for you. In this age of AI, instant everything, and mind-boggling complexity, are the rigid corners of this triangle, time, cost, and scope, still the only things that really matter? Or are we going to need totally new models for a future where the rules themselves might be starting to change? It's definitely something to think about.